Hello and welcome into the first episode of the Sporting JAX Report on our new home here on First Coast News, along with Mauricio Ruiz. I'm Cole Pepper, and each week here on the Sporting JAX Report, we're going to bring you the very latest progress of the group bringing pro men's and women's soccer to Jacksonville. Mauricio, the teams won't take the field until 2026, but there is a lot happening right now in the setup for the first seasons.
There really is. There's a lot of work being done behind the scenes, and ultimately we got to get out to the community and really introduce what the USL Championship and the Super League, the first women's professional league here in Jacksonville. There's a lot of work to be done.
There is, and we'll do some of that work here on the Sporting JAX Report. Let's start with some basics about the club and the leagues that the teams will play in. First, let's start with the team name. Sporting Club Jacksonville, Sporting JAX for short. It was a name that came from the community for months starting last year. The club held listening sessions around the region to learn what soccer fans wanted and didn't want in their team. Some of the things that we heard included wanting authenticity, a club that reflected the values of the community, and that included the entire region. So in December, we unveiled the team identity, colors, and logo at a public event. Also at the event, the unveiling of the club motto, Lift Every Voice. Inspired by the James Weldon Johnson song, Lift Every Voice means that everyone in our community will be welcome to Sporting JAX. That includes the women's team, which will become the first professional women's team of any sport to call Jacksonville home. More on that in just a bit. Ricky Kaplan is the majority owner, and among the club's investors are Tim Tebow and Fred Taylor, who both have a passion for lifting every voice.
I've been able to see firsthand what sports can do for communities, what it can do for people, what it can do for dreams, what it can do for individuals. And it's so much more for me about the dreams, the community, a city that we love and we call home. And I love that it's based around the sunrise. Because you know, every morning that you see a sunrise, what can't help but come to your mind is hope. Another day, another opportunity, and why would we not want to give that to our community?
When Ricky called and said, Fred, we have an opportunity here in the community, that was the first thing that stood out, community. I've been involved in the Jacksonville community as far back as my freshman year in college. I had a lot of teammates, a lot of guys that lived here, and I would come with them in the off seasons to visit. And I started developing a liking for Jacksonville. And then eventually I was drafted here in '98. And from that point forward, this was home. It'll always be home. It's about influence, impact, you know, inclusivity for me. When they said we were going to lift every voice, and each and every voice, and I heard the seriousness and the tone in Ricky's voice when he said that was going to be the mantra, the motto, I said, okay, I'm in.
Some powerful words there. Remember, you can become a member of Sporting JAX. It's absolutely free. Just go to sportingjax.com to sign up. You'll get discounts on club merchandise, invitations to VIP events, entries into contests for prizes and experiences, and you'll receive the Sporting JAX monthly email newsletter. Plus, you can put your deposit down for season tickets for the Sporting JAX men's and women's teams and receive an exclusive Sporting JAX founding member pin. Just go to sportingjax.com to become a member. Mauricio, as we mentioned, the first games don't arrive until 2026, but there is a lot going on behind the scenes right now with Sporting JAX, working on a stadium site, developing community partners, youth soccer, sponsors, and of course, looking at the first head coaches and players who will be signed in the coming months. All big milestones to come.
Yeah, there really are. And having this runway up to 2026 gives us an opportunity to really invest in the community, make sure that we're doing right within the soccer fans of the community, engage with partners, sponsors, and really just come out and introduce what the league is about. It's a fantastic league. There's a lot of depth to it, and gives us time to make sure that we're bringing the right representatives to make sure that we represent our community well.
Well, let's talk about the league in which the teams will be playing, the USL. Start with the USL Championship and then the USL Super League. The men's and women's teams will be competing in those two leagues. The USL Championship is the second division of professional soccer in the United States. And you can see where the teams are when you take a look at the map all across the country there, from the West Coast to the Midwest, the mountains, and all the way to the east. The closest rivals for Jacksonville will be in Tampa, Miami, and Charleston. But there are teams from coast to coast. The USL Super League launches in August as a first division women's league. This is the highest division of pro soccer in the country. It's a big deal for Jacksonville and for women's sports. All right, let's give you a taste of the level of soccer you'll see in the USL Championship. Mauricio, each week we're going to bring you our match of the week, and this week it's Rhode Island hosting the Western Conference leading Sacramento Republic.
And Sacramento really has been the best in the West for a while, and Rhode Island, they're brand new into the league. They're arriving as a new franchise, but they had a really good game against Sacramento. Sacramento's undefeated at this point. You see Rhode Island hosting them here in blue, and just right off the bat, 30 minutes in, they're leading 7-1 shots at this point, and Turnbull finally turns it into a goal to lead 1-0.
Stephen Turnbull with the goal. 6 minutes later, Sacramento would equalize. As you take a look at that shot, not a lot of margin for error, just outside the reach of the goalkeeper and inside that near post. But 6 minutes later, Sacramento would equalize. Jack Gurr with a beauty of a cross, and Trevor Amon there to nod it in. It's 1-1.
And Trevor Amon, since he's come into the league as the Golden Boot winner from the USL League One, all he does is score goals. This is his 6th goal into the season. He doesn't get overly involved in the build-up play. He stays inside the box and he finishes because he's a natural finisher in front of the goal.
This would make it 1-1, but that tie would be short-lived. 42nd minute now. Rhode Island with a corner, and this is an amazing finish. Karifa Yao goes upstairs. His first goal in the United States to make it 2-1 Rhode Island.
Canadian-born defender makes his presence known, going up in traffic. You see him just right in the middle of the traffic, in the middle of the box. Keeper can't really come out to get his first goal.
Second half was a slugfest, and either side could find the net, and it looked like Sacramento would fall for the first time this year until 3 minutes into stoppage time. This one pings around and finally finds the foot of Jonathan Ricketts. 2-2, that is how it would finish.
Yeah, and Cole, and there's some ties that feel like losses and sometimes feel like wins. And Rhode Island's locker room right now, this feels very much like a loss. They had a chance to dethrone the undefeated best in the West, and they go away with a tie. Still a good result at the end of the day, but when you have them 2-1 with a couple minutes left in the game in regulation, a bit of like a mix-up there in the box, I think Rhode Island's locker room will feel a little disappointed after the game.
I agree with you. Let's take a look at some of the other scores from around the league. You see the 2-2 right in the middle there. Louisville City at home, very impressive with a 3-0 win to get it done at home. What other scores jump out at you here from Week 10?
Well, you see New Mexico, they keep climbing up. They have an opportunity to take first place, after this weekend's match. And they're a team that just kind of keeps on the rise. Detroit City had a really good start of the season. They're starting to kind of get some of this, 1-1 games. They're starting to lose a little bit, but two really strong teams to keep a look at.
All right, let's take a look at the standings as they sit right now, starting with the West. And again, Sacramento has to be the team to beat in the West this year. Who else are you keeping an eye on in the Western Conference?
Monterey Bay, I think they're a team that kind of continues to stay. They pick up results. They let a couple go. A little bit similar to last year, but San Antonio and Phoenix, they could stay in that 5 or 6, but I really like where Monterey Bay is, and if they can get goals because they're really attacking an offensive team.
We're about a third of the way through, a little shy of a third of the way through the season, so you can start to see who's going to be contending for the top spot and who needs to try to get in that top 8 to make it to the postseason. In the East, a familiar name near the top of the standings, Charleston Battery, the Eastern Conference champions last year. Louisville City, always in contention. Detroit City, though, as you mentioned, has really been the story of the year, at least in the East, if not in the entire league.
They really have, and they had an opportunity the last 2 weeks to continue to climb. You see the separation in points from Charleston Battery. Louisville is keeping up with Charleston. Detroit City, they're kind of claiming that third spot, but they do have a good team. And the Indy 11 is starting to climb a little bit. Birmingham Legion is starting to climb. These are really congested. It's really a battle at the bottom, as you mentioned. Top 8 going to the playoffs. So you want to stay above that 8 line, and Pittsburgh, Hartford, and Rhode Island are flirting with it right now.
For more on Sporting JAX and the USL, we invite you to subscribe to the Sporting Pod. Our weekly podcast takes you behind the scenes of what we're doing to build up to kickoff. Mauricio and I, joined by Tony Allegretti, to discuss the hot topics in the soccer world and to give the latest updates on Sporting JAX. Find the Sporting Pod on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and YouTube. Recently, we discussed why the club decided to keep both the men's and women's team as one brand. Both will be called Sporting JAX. Becky Burleigh joined us to discuss.
It's a way to make it feel like it's a little bit more community-based, a way to make it feel like it's more about the whole as opposed to the parts. And I really like Mauricio's point about how when those two teams are the same, it creates like the difference is two separate brandings, like MLS and WSL. That's two separate brandings. Like, I love the idea of having the two teams in the same family.
Mauricio, this is a common practice in Europe, but Sporting JAX was the first to do it in America with both brands under the same name.
It really was, and traditionally one team comes before the other. It's a very unique situation that we're launching both franchises, really both teams underneath the same franchise, I might add. So the decision was kind of simple. I mean, we did go out to the community, we did communicate with our partners. Is there an interest to kind of separate the two brands? But everyone felt they should be joined, especially because we're presenting to the community as a one unit.
And it is, and that's a part of that move to equity in soccer and in Sporting JAX. Coming up, Becky Burleigh, the former national championship winning coach at Florida and the founder of the Gators women's soccer program, joins us to take a deeper dive into the USL Super League. And we invite you to join us for our Summer of Soccer watch parties. On May 25th, we'll be at Culhane's Irish Pub on the South Side for the Women's Champions League final. Then on June 1st, the Champions League final for the men will be at both Island Wing locations to watch the biggest club championship in Europe. And during the Copa America at the end of June, we'll be at Grace Note Brewing for 3 watch parties. We'll have prizes and giveaways and a chance for you to ask questions about Sporting JAX. It's free to attend, but please RSVP by going to sportingjax.com. We are just getting started here on the Sporting JAX Report. All USL Championship games are streamed on ESPN Plus or CBS's Golazo Network, and the next national broadcast comes on CBS Sports Network as Monterey Bay hosts Charleston Battery. That's Wednesday night, May 29th at 10 p.m. on CBS Sports Network. All right, we will welcome in now Becky Burleigh. Because, of course, we mentioned she founded the Florida women's soccer program, won a national championship there. She's been a great part of our build-up with Sporting JAX. Becky, welcome. Let's talk a little bit about the USL Super League and women's soccer kind of in general. How significant was it that the USL Super League gained that first division status here recently? What difference will that make for the league?
Oh, that is huge. I mean, that alone attracts the best talent, and it allows us to be an international brand and an international feature on the women's soccer calendar.
So, and Becky, new league, new players potentially. What do you expect to see from a quality on the field, a style of play in this brand new league, a lot of excitement, and really being introduced to a lot of new communities as well?
Oh, I think that's the most exciting part. I think we're going to see talent that we haven't seen here before, because I think this international calendar idea really helps talent that might be in Europe come our way and be part of it that couldn't before. And I think this is something that's very unique to USL.
All right, let's talk about Sporting JAX in particular. What impact do you see the club making, in particular for women and girls soccer here on the First Coast?
You know, the First Coast has had just this huge history of producing amazing players that have gone on, whether it's to college, professional, the national team. And it's just going to be so amazing for people to be able to be up front, up close and personal to these people as they go through their careers. And they have an opportunity to stay at home if they want to do that.
So we have a great women's national team, right? Significantly more successful on the pitch than on the men's side. We have a great college system. Why do you think it's taking so long for us to elevate the number of professional women's teams around the country?
You know, that's a really good question. I think women's sports is having a bit of a moment right now that's only going to escalate. And I think part of that is because people are seeing the value of entertainment of women's sports. And you see this all across the country. And I think the amount of opportunities that soccer had prior to this was pretty limited. And it's so excited right now to be able to add more to that.
You know, there may be some high school age players right now watching this here in the Jacksonville area. What do you say to them about potentially being able to play for their hometown professional team in the future?
You know what's so cool about that is, you know, as a player growing up, I didn't really have female teams that I could go watch and see what I wanted to be. And these women now have that opportunity. These young girls now have that opportunity because they're going to be able to see these people doing exactly what they want to do, and they see a path. And I think that did not exist prior to this.
So if we talk about the pinnacle of women's soccer, our women's national team going through a transition, bringing in Emma Hayes, head coach of Chelsea, super successful overseas on the club level. What are your expectations with the Olympics, Olympics this summer? How is she going to put all that together? And is there going to be a change in culture for women's soccer?
Well, I'll tell you this, it's a quick learning curve because she gets dropped in and the Olympics are right around the corner, but she's had so much success. She's been here in the US before. This is not her first time. She's aware of the culture of soccer in the US. She's clearly aware of the culture in Europe. And I think to be able to meld those two together and not just bring in a European-based coach who then imposes a European culture, like she gets it. And that's what I'm really excited about watching.
Now, there is no doubt that all eyes will be on the United States when the Olympics open later this summer, and we will be watching very closely to see how the U.S. does in that competition and beyond. Becky Burleigh, thanks so much. We look forward to having you on the show each and every week. All right, let's now take a moment here to remind you that it's not too early to become a season ticket member of Sporting JAX. Just go to sportingjax.com, put down your deposit. $25 reserves your space for the men's or women's teams, and if you want to reserve your spot for both, it's just $40. Just go to sportingjax.com to save your seat for pro soccer in Jacksonville. Coming up, Sporting JAX in the community, what the club has done to this point to elevate soccer on the First Coast. That's next as the Sporting JAX Report rolls on.
Important.
Sporting JAX will be unveiling the official kits in the months to come, but already you can get your own Sporting JAX official merchandise, from t-shirts and hats to sweatshirts and, of course, the scarf. You can find Sporting JAX official merchandise at sportingjax.com, at our official team store on Phillips Highway, and at We Got Soccer. Mauricio, Sporting JAX is more than just soccer. The club is dedicated to elevating the community, and we've been busy in the months since the club's name and logo were announced, really getting out there and trying to make a difference, even without a team on the field.
Yeah, we really have, because soccer really is a community sport. Sport in general is a community event, and we want to make sure that the community know who we are. They know what our values are, what a team model. Lift every voice really means that we want to embark in a relationship with a lot of the people in town. So going, doing a high school media day, elevating high school soccer, going out to different, creating different watch parties, community events in general. We want to make sure that we are known to the city, that they're known to us, and we can really lift up what they're doing, which is an event. Well, what this event did for us.
Yeah, this was the first ever high school soccer media day in Jacksonville, and reporters came out and got to talk to over 100 high school soccer stars. Really put a spotlight on the season. Also helping groups like All Nation Soccer that brings refugees and families and gives them a place to play soccer and get to know the city a bit more. It really has been all about the community here in the early stages. And of course, once the games are happening, that will take a front seat for a lot of folks, but the work in the community will continue.
Yeah, it really is. As a professional organization, we are ultimately the ambassadors of what happens in the city. We're not creating soccer in the city. Soccer's been here for a really long time and has a history of culture, talent, tradition, and we want to partner with organizations that are already doing a great job, see where we can help them or just support them in what they're doing. And if there's some that need a little bit more assistance, we want to be partners with them. You mentioned All Nations, you mentioned high school media days. There's some of the small pieces that we can do before we have a team, but I'm excited about building an academy, right? Partnerships with clubs, relationships, so we can actually start putting a product on the field.
And again, we look forward to the future when one day a kid who's playing club soccer right now, high school soccer right now, pulls on that Sporting JAX kit and steps on the field for Sporting JAX. Still to come, we'll update you on other ways to stay in touch with Sporting JAX, including when you can see this show every week. Stick around, there's more to come on the Sporting JAX Report. Next week, you can watch the Sporting JAX Report every Wednesday at noon on ABC 25 with re-airings on Saturdays and on demand on First Coast News Plus. You can also check it out on the YouTube channel for Sporting JAX. There are a lot of big moments that are to come between now and the first kickoff. Looking forward to 2026, Mauricio. But there are a lot of moments that I think a lot of folks really look forward to rally around here in the coming year and a half. What are the biggest milestones you're really looking forward to here this year?
Well, so biggest one, which is the first one, will be a stadium announcement, right? So that's going to really be a catalyst and an anchor to what our project's going to look like, and more information will come out of that. On the soccer side of it, it's really getting that first head coach. Because that first head coach really sets the trend of what's going to happen, style of play that we're going to play, what kind of players we'll have on the field, on the men's and on the women's side. So those two kind of announcements kind of almost back to back in a way, but really as far as on the field, as far as fans are excited, entertainment value, the first head coach on the men's and on the women's team will really set a precedent on what kind of players and we'll be able to see and what kind of product we're going to have on the field.
And I thought you were going to say being able to watch the first Sporting JAX report. But hey, listen, we all have the things we're looking forward to this year. That's all part of it. I'm also looking forward to the kit. We have the colors. We've got the crest. The kit is going to be a big thing. It's the look that's going to represent the club into the future. That partnering on great youth soccer initiatives, bringing soccer to underserved communities. There is going to be so much coming up here this year with Sporting JAX. I think is going to get people excited. We mentioned the watch parties as well. We've been to some of these already. The energy and excitement for the folks who come out to watch these big soccer matches has been great.
Well, that just shows us the interest of soccer in this area. Anytime we put together a watch party, we get 20 to 30 to 40. Sometimes we get 10, sometimes we get 70, right? But there's an excitement that people are coming out. And the questions are typically the same. Well, when do you start? When do you start getting players? Well, another thing that I'm really excited about is really kind of getting our youth academy going. The USL Academy is a bit of a new product in the league nationally anyways. There's other kind of products already there. But the under 20, it's really where we start seeing local talent emerge to eventually play on a professional team. So we start that identification and talent process now, so we can actually put an under 20 team on the field. So maybe by 26, 27, we have someone that played on the under 20 actually play and debut on the first team.
That would be so exciting. There's no doubt about that. We've seen in sports everywhere when you have a hometown, locally developed talent who becomes a star on a team, it's tough to beat that. Listen, obviously, Tim Tebow, one of the co-owners here of Sporting JAX, from Jacksonville, played at Florida, big star there, won the Heisman Trophy. He knows what that's all about. Fred Taylor has become that for Jacksonville. He's an adopted hometown of Jacksonville. So we've seen a lot of that and how fans gravitate to that. We're a little bit further down the road, but I am looking forward to that first match and the build up to the first match, knowing what it's going to be like that first day when we kick a ball on the field.
Yeah, and if we're doing our job correctly, right, it should be a packed arena wherever we're going to be. Make sure that we have thousands of fans that are coming out support, really the build up to it, and then once that ball gets kicked, that first goal goes in, incredible.
All right, there are a lot of ways for you to connect with Sporting JAX, including on our social media platforms. Be sure to connect with us there, and we'll be right here each and every week with the Sporting JAX Report. For Mauricio Ruiz and Becky Burleigh, I'm Cole Pepper. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you next time.